A good inventory system is essential in game design as it allows players to manage their items, resources, and equipment. It's a crucial aspect of gameplay that can make or break the player's experience. But how we can find what kind of inventory fits to our game? Well, it depends on our game's genre. Different genres have different approaches of inventory system design. So let's explore some common inventory types. The simplest concept of inventory appears in action shooter games, such as Call of Duty or Gears of War, when we just store limited number of limited items like ammos, grenades, and maybe health packs. All items we have in our game are needed for our fighting abilities, and there is no challenge to find items. You can easily find them everywhere. Even in the most abstract environment, there's enough ammos to find and blast the shit out of everywhere. But when it comes to action-adventure games, it's a bit different. There might be various junk items around the world, and you can use them to craft some other items. And these crafted items, again, are just some items that used for improving your fighting abilities, like Molotov in The Last of Us, or using a bunch of junks to craft an iron sight for your rifle in Tomb Raider. In action-adventure games, item scarcity can significantly impact gameplay. The limited availability of resources forces players to make strategic decisions about which item to use and when. For instance, a player might need to choose between healing themselves with a scarce health kit or saving it for more critical situation. This scarcity can create a sense of urgency and tension as players constantly weigh the risk and rewards of their choices. Additionally, using scarce items might have consequences, such as depleting other resources or sacrificing abilities. This trade-off adds complexity and depth to the gameplay, making it more challenging and rewarding. Inventory systems have different meaning in adventure games. There are some unique items that you must find to get through the game. It might be a key, a document, or anything else to pass through a route, solve a puzzle, or make an NPC happy. By the pixel hunt nature of this genre, the challenge is to find items by exploring the game world, manage your inventory slots to keep all items at once, and also use them in the right place. Mind the Monkey Island, and depression to click everywhere to find anything that helps you open a door. Nonetheless, none of those challenges appear in modern adventure games. You just find a key just a moment before facing a locked door. Well, as players, we're getting casual in modern era. When in action-adventure games, the inventory is not a system that forces you to interact with, but in classic adventure games, items and inventory are crucial to pass this story. Of course, in modern adventure games, there is more focus on storytelling itself, and other challenges like inventory are less important, because they may make a distance between players and the emotional narrative. Look at The Wolf Among Us, for example. Now, in role-playing games, or RPG-like games, the things are really different, because the inventory system and items are one of the most crucial elements of the genre, and there are different methods to design a well-crafted inventory system, and I'll try to introduce each of them as best as I can. The Rule 99. It's the easiest approach to design an inventory system, and it's very common in JRPGs. You can stash a huge amount of items in your inventory until you reach a fixed number for each. In classic JRPGs, the number is 99, meaning the limited number of having a specific item, for example a health potion, is 99. Of course, you can set a different number for that, but players cannot have more of the same item than that number. The next important matter of this method is the inventory usually shared between all party members of the game. This method is really easy to design and balance. There will be no designing challenge, no micromanagement, and no complexity, not for game designers nor players. And also, it's easy to implement. But there are some matters that need to be concerned about, such as items value. Messing up with item design and put an OP item in the game that unbalances the fight is a common abyss to fall in, so just beware of it. The greed-based inventory. You can find these types in classic Western RPGs, like Diablo, or survival horror games like Resident Evil. Inventory has a limited size, represented by visual grids, and each item takes predefined grid to fit in the inventory. For example, a two-handed battle axe takes more grids than a healing potion. so the challenge is how to fit items in the inventory grids efficiently. Also in these games, there is a safe stash, mostly a chest and a safe place, with more rooms that you can store other items in there for time of needs. It's like an item bank you can access at any time. You can see another similar inventory system in MMORPGs like World of Warcraft. Each item just takes one grid of your inventory, but the point is the inventory has very small size, so you can add another inventory to store more items. According to visual nature of this method, the challenge of arranging items might be very fun for players. It also gives the players more sense of realism for storing items. But there are some challenges too, such as balancing the item size and make it easy to arrange by players. Weighted inventories. You can find this kind of inventory system mostly in modern Western RPGs, such as Fallout, The Witcher, and The Elder Scrolls. In this system, each item has a weight value. The character also has a limited value representing how much weight it can carry in total. This number may increase by leveling up the stamina or use some higher level items. Players can carry as many items without limits, but if the weight of all items is more than the player capacity number of carry, player moves more slowly, and the game warns the player that the character is carrying too much weight. These games also using a bank stash for storing some not necessary items in it. This system adds more realistic senses to the game. It's also easy to implement, but it requires many efforts for balancing. It could easily fall into the hole of annoying system for the players. One of the most non-balanced games with this system was Fallout 4. It was very frustrating for me to manage the inventory and items weight in that game. Hybrid systems. According to your game and your design philosophy, you may want to design a different inventory system that fits your project. You may want to combine some elements from different approaches and make a brand new inventory system, and that's completely fine. As I did for my game, the items in my game don't have weight value and you can store them in a limited number of it in a slot. It's similar to rule of 99, but the number for each item is different. For example, players may have 20 of some potions in the inventory, but for another potion with higher level of rarity, players may have just 5 of them. The thing is, when you study different types of inventory system, it's easier to design a new system with different rules and functions. It's your game and your rules. When we know what system is best for our game, it's time to make decisions about items. After all, we need inventory system to store items. Whatever you're going to implement this system by yourself as a solo dev, or you have a programmer in your team to does the magic, you need to think about some implementation concerns such as functions. Managing items is one of the biggest challenges when building an inventory system. You need to think about how items will be stored, how they will be displayed, and how players will interact with them. What happens when a player tries to add an item that's already in their inventory, or when they try to remove an item that's not there? One of the most important points about items is dealing with different types of items, such as consumables, equipment, and quest items, which brings interaction with items. Each type of item has its own set of rules and behaviors, and you need to make sure your system can handle them all seamlessly. As always, let's start by crafting a system design document. And done! Now it's time to dive into the implementation. My dear Unreal, here I come. First, I created a script that will manage the inventory logic, and then I made a simple UI that will display the inventory to the players. I created a tool that I can identify different items with different specifications and behaviors, a database to keep all of them in the same place, and the logic to add this data to an individual object in the game as item. Next, I add the coding logic for user interactions. I created functions that will allow players to add and remove items, as well as functions that will update the inventory display in real time. I also add some basic error checking to make sure that players cannot add or remove items that aren't valid. Now that I have the basic structure in place, let's add some items to our inventory. I created a few sample items such as a sword, a key, and a health potion. As I add more items to the inventory, we can see how the system is working. I can add items, remove items, and the best part is, it's all working seamlessly. Now, for the fun part, writing the technical design document. And trust me, you'll need these later. And done. I need to add some visual part as soon as possible. I will modify this system in the future, but I think it was all for this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more game development content. I would also love to hear your thoughts and your experiences in the comments below. See you in the next video.